Campus 1, there are 3 faculties, which are Faculty of Teacher Training and Education, here in Campus 1, there are 3 Faculty of faculties, Letters, which are Faculty of Teacher Training and Education, and Faculty of Economics. Here in Campus 1, there are 3 Faculty of faculties, Letters, which are moving from Faculty of
Campus
Teacher 1, Training now and in Campus Education, 2 of Universitas Sanata Dharma, specifically in Gedung Pasca Sarjana, which still adjacent to and Campus 1. Faculty of Economics. Here in Campus 1, there are 3 faculties, which are moving from Faculty of Campus Teacher 1, Training Pasca and Sarjana, Education, there are Universitas Magister Sanata programs Dharma, and doctoral specifically programs. in Gedung Pasca Sarjana, which still adjacent to Campus 1.
Faculty of Economics. In Campus 1, there are faculty of letters. Moving from Campus 1, Pasca Sarjana, there are Magister programs and doctoral programs. In Gedung Pasca Sarjana.
Here, there are some faculties such as Faculty of Science and Technology,
Magister programs and doctoral programs. In Gedung Pasca Sarjana.
next is Faculty of Psychology. Here, there are some faculties such as Faculty of Science and Technology, Faculty of Pharmacy,
Programs and doctoral programs. In Gedung Pasca Sarjana.
next is Faculty of Here we have Faculty of Theology. Here there is Catholic
Here we have
Religious
Faculty
Education
of
Study
Theology.
Program as a part of Faculty of Teacher Training and Education. That's all for the campus tour of Universitas Sanata Dharma. How is it? Interesting, right? As we have offered lots of programs to study here. Then, what are you waiting for? Come on, register yourself and be part of Universitas Sanata Dharma. Cerdas dan Humanis.
Training and Education.
That's all for the campus tour of Universitas Sanata Dharma. How is it? Interesting, right? As we have offered lots of programs to study here. Then, what are you waiting for? Come on, register yourself and be part of Universitas Sanata Dharma. Cerdas dan Humanis.
Training and Education.
That's all for the campus tour of Universitas Sanata Dharma. How is it? Interesting, right? Welcome to Universitas Sanata Dharma. Now we're in Campus 1 of Universitas Sanata Dharma, located in Jalan Avandi, Merican, Yogyakarta. Here in Campus 1, there are 3 faculties, which are Faculty of Teacher Training and Education, Faculty of Letters, and Faculty of Economics. Moving from Campus 1, now we're in Campus 2 of Universitas Sanata Dharma, specifically in Gedung Pasca Sarjana, which is still adjacent to Campus 1. In Gedung Pasca Sarjana, there are Magister programs and doctoral programs. Here, there are some faculties such as Faculty of Science and Technology, next is Faculty of Psychology, Faculty of Pharmacy, Faculty of Teacher Training and Science Education, It offers lots of study programs such as Mechatronics Engineering and Electromedical Engineering. Here we have Faculty of Theology. Here there is Catholic Religious Education Study Program as a part of Faculty of Teacher Training and Education. That's all for the campus tour of Universitas Sanata Dharma. How is it? Interesting, right? As we have offered lots of programs to study here. Then, what are you waiting for? Come on, register yourself and be part of Universitas Sanata Dharma, cerdas dan humanis.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and participants, good afternoon. Greetings from Yogyakarta, Indonesia. Welcome to the 4th International Conference on Theology, Religion, Culture, and Humanities. My name is Wilbert Evensus, a graduate student at the Faculty of Theology, Wedabhakti, Universitas Sanata Dharma, Indonesia. I will be your host for this year's conference. The central theme of this year's THEOICON is entitled The Quest of Being Human in Our Times. I will provide you a brief run-through for our theme. The rapid advances in technology, artificial intelligence, shifting societies, environmental challenges, and growing cultural diversity, the question, what does it mean to be human, is more pressing than ever. In Asia, and especially in Indonesia, this question arises amid communal ways of life, interreligious exchanges, economic disparities, and the ongoing balance between tradition and modernity. This international seminar aims to create a scholarly space for thoughtful debate and meaningful dialogue about what it means to be human today, with a particular focus on Asian, Indonesian experiences while welcoming global viewpoints. Now, before we begin, let us offer our gratitude toward God for His abundant blessings that enable us to gather today. And so, I will lead us with an opening prayer in the Catholic way. Let us pray. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Gracious God, source of wisdom and truth, we gather at the opening of the 4th THEOICON International Conference with grateful hearts. We thank you for bringing us together across nations and cultures, united in our shared quest of being human in our times. As we begin, we ask you to awaken in each of us a deeper awareness of what it means to be human today, capable of compassion in a wounded world, seekers of truth amid uncertainty, and bearers of hope where it is most needed. May this conference inspire us not only to reflect, but to become more attentive, more just, and more loving in our daily lives. We ask you also to bless our faculty, the organizers, the speakers, and all participants. Grant us clarity of mind, openness of heart, and humility in dialogue, so that our discussions may lead to wisdom that transforms both ourselves and the communities we serve. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Recording in progress.
Now, before the speakers deliver their speech, I would like to invite you all to turn on your cameras and show yourselves during this opening session for documentation purposes. And now, we are going to hear an opening remark from Professor Mulyatno as the Dean of the Faculty of Theology, Wedabhakti. Professor Mulyatno, the time is yours.
Thank you so much for this time. It is an honor for the Faculty of Theology to host this international seminar under the theme, The Quest of Being Human in Our Time. Thank you for the smart work of the International Seminar Committee under the coordination of Father Dominicus Sukristiono, which involve students, lecturers, and education staff. I would like to greet the speakers in special way. My warm greetings and sincere thanks to our three keynote speakers. Dr. Martinus Joko Lelono from the University of Sanata Dharma University, Dr. Mark Joseph Zamit from the University of Malta, and Professor Dr. Josh Gasser from the University of Augsburg, Germany. Thank you for being with us. Distinguished guests, scholars, students, and participants, welcome to this international seminar. We use the word quest because being human today is not simple. It is a journey. Our world is changing fast, and we often feel confused, divided, and uncertain. This seminar invites us to think, reflect, and search together. Today, we face several challenges. First, technology connects us, but it can also make us feel alone. We talk more online, but we may lose deep conversation and empathy. Second, many people feel tired and pressured. We are always asked to perform, achieve, and show ourselves. This can reduce our time for rest, reflection, and real relationship. Third, our lives are shaped by digital system and also by ecological crisis. Technology and data influence how we live and think. At the same time, the environment suffers. These problems are connected. When we harm nature, we also harm humanity, especially the poor and vulnerable. Because of this, theology must work with other fields like philosophy, science, and social studies. We also need to listen to different cultures. Each culture has its own way of understanding what it means to be human. Voices from Asia, Africa, women, and marginalized groups are very important. They remind us that being human is about community, dignity, and care for others. This seminar is not only academic, it is also a shared journey. We come with questions, we listen, and we hope to find deeper understanding together. With this spirit, let us participate in this seminar. Thank you, and I wish you a blessed day with this our seminar. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Mulyatno, for your inspiring remarks. Next, I would like to invite Father Albertus Bagus Laksana, PhD, as the Rector of Sanata Dharma University. Father Bagus, the spotlight is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Distinguished international speakers, keynote speakers, respected presenters and participants, the Dean and faculty members of the Wedabhakti Pontifical Faculty, the School of Theology of Sanata Dharma University, and also the members of the organizing committee of the conference, and everyone else joining us from here and far. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are at the moment. On behalf of Sanata Dharma University, I would like to welcome you to this very important and timely international conference. And the theme, again, is very timely, rather broad, but I think very important and timely, the purpose of being human in our times. And I would like, being a leader of this university, to put this kind of theme into the context of our journey and identity as a university. All of you know that Sanata Dharma University is a Jesuit university, a Catholic university. It's founded actually on an inclusive Christian humanism, nurtured by faith, love, and hope. So the theme of this conference is, I think, in line with who we are as a university, again, founded on the value of Christian, or the vision of Christian humanism. It is also under threat now or today. Last year, Sanata Dharma University celebrated our 70th anniversary of our foundation. And it is not an exaggeration to say that the dynamic growth of our university throughout its history has been nurtured actually on the most fundamental level by faith-filled hope that is supported by ever-expanding love and charity. The birth of Sanata Dharma as an apostolic work of the Society of Jesus was founded on a hope for the progress of God's mission and humanity's response to God's mission, all of us together. And at its foundation, Sanata Dharma University shared hope of the whole nation, who declared its freedom only 10 years prior for a free, just, and prosperous society and humanity. This hope sustained its role in educating teachers, and later this hope became more pronounced when Sanata Dharma, against all odds, decided to become a full-fledged university in order to better respond to the new realities of the nation and of humanity by creating new and diverse academic programs. From then on until the present, Sanata Dharma University continues to navigate its course amid ever greater challenges, armed with ever stronger hope. Today, the challenges we are facing seem to be enormous and formidable. As a Jesuit university, we find ourselves in the crossroad between different forces, such as the changing landscape of education, especially the commodification of higher education, with fierce competition in a market-driven economy, the rapid development of artificial intelligence or AI, the backsliding of democracy globally but also nationally, global crisis of environment, rising geopolitical tensions, the wars that we are seeing now, the mental health issues, the shrinking of the middle class, and the rising number of the new precariats, the new poor. These challenges happen in the moment that as a university, we want to help more students in need actually. We also want to help other higher education institutions, both in Indonesia and in the region. And we would like to play a greater role on the international stage. So indeed, hope does not disappoint us, as Scripture says. However, especially within the context of Jesuit University today, hope needs to be sustained by a robust reading of the signs of the time, by sensing the particular context and situations, with discerning foresight in the Ignatian sense of the word, that is, discerning the voices of God in the signs of the times and the unfolding of historical events. And in our present day context, one of the most disruptive forces of change, Father Mulyadno has mentioned this as well, as a crucial sign of the times, is surely the development of artificial intelligence or technology in general, that affects our identity and role as human beings. Our quest of being human today is affected by this vast and challenging development of AI in different fields in our lives. While it is still true that so far AI has remained limited in its scope and has not captured the essence of human intelligence, the development and impact of AI has become so rapid, deep, and widespread. So responding to this very rapid and dynamic development of AI, I would argue that Jesuit universities would continue to be a project of hope for the world and humanity by engaging more deeply, more critically, and constructively with the development of AI, which has helped us usher in a new order for humanity, so to speak, in accordance with the Jesuit traditions of education and Ignatian spirituality. So I find the theme of your conference very stimulating. It is inspiring for all of us to think more about being human in our today's world, with different challenges such as AI, but not limited to it. And I'm sure that all of us here in this virtual room or otherwise, you may meet in person at the Faculty of Theology, I'm sure. We can discuss all of those things. And one of the things that I found beautiful in this conference is its interdisciplinarity. Being human is very complex now, and our university has been founded on humanism, but humanism itself is under attack, under different, duress, so to speak. We are having this duty to renew our humanism, the understanding of being human today from different perspectives through dialogues and interdisciplinary approaches. So I applaud these dimensions of internationality, of interdisciplinarity that this conference upholds by inviting different speakers talking about different themes within this quite broad theme of the quest of being human in our world today. So, lastly, I would wish you a very stimulating and inspiring conference. May God bless all of us in our journey together to seek how to become a human being together in this troubled time. God bless us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Father Bagus, for your insightful message for us all. I trust these remarks from our Dean and Rector awaken in us a sincere desire to engage actively in today's discussion. Let us give a virtual applause both to Professor Mulyatno and Father Bagus. And with that, I would like to hand over the discussion to Thomas Becket Pramudita as the moderator of this conference.
Thank you, Wilbert. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and participants, good afternoon from Yogyakarta, Indonesia. My name is Thomas Becket Pramudita. You can call me Thomas or you can call me TB. I am a graduate student at the Faculty of Theology, Wedabhakti, Sanata Dharma University, and I am very happy and honored to be the moderator in our discussion at this conference. So I would like to give a brief introduction before we listen to our keynote speakers. So David Kelsey, in his article, Human Being in the Christian Theology, in introduction to its tradition and task, said that theologians have always made claims about human beings as part of other major doctrine, such as creation, the fallenness, sin, maybe also about of human beings, about the dynamic by which people are redeemed. In other words, there is not much to discuss about the very nature of human beings in our theological reflection. Well, we can disagree with this statement, but I think it is very clear that our conference over the next 2 days, today and tomorrow, will have an impactful reflection on human being in our philosophical and mainly our theological conversation, especially on the challenges and situations of today. Therefore, the theme of this year, THEOICON, is the quest of being human in our times. And to elaborate on the theme, we will listen to 3 distinguished speakers who will help us explore the central theme of this conference. The keynote speakers are: first, we have Dr. Joko Lolono from Sanata Dharma University. Selamat sore, Romo. And the second keynote speaker, we have Reverend Dr. Mark Joseph Zamith from University of Malta. Igodwa Tejaba, I hope I pronounced it correctly. It's Maltese way to say good morning. And the last but not least speaker, we have Professor Dr. Georg Gasser from the University of Augsburg. Guten Morgen. Good morning. So each speaker will have about 30 to 45 minutes to deliver their presentation. And Dr. Joko will kick off the discussion with his presentation, followed by Dr. Zamit, and finished by Professor Gasser. And after Professor Gasser's presentation, there will be a 15-minute break, and followed by question and answer session. All right, so let's begin our conference with our very first speaker, Dr. Joko Lolono. And as Dr. Joko prepares for his presentation, please let me read his CV and also a brief introduction of his presentation. You can go to page 17, where Dr. Joko's abstract is written on the booklet that's shared by the committee. Or maybe the committee, you can share the link on our Zoom chat or YouTube chat. So Dr. Martinus Joko Lolono is a Catholic priest, a lecturer at Sanata Dharma University, and a researcher in interreligious dialogue. He is actively involved in promoting interfaith collaboration in Indonesia through teaching, research, and community engagement. His publications include Imaginary Boundaries of Christianization in Indonesia in 2026 and Internet-Mediated Interreligious Dialogue. This is a study case on an Instagram account, Catholic G, Catholic Gays Model of Dialogue in 2021. So his presentation entitled Negotiating Truth in a Hyper-Real World, Interreligious Relation in the Digital Age. So Father Joko will explore how, in the post-truth era, perceptions of religious mission, especially Christian activities, can be constructed into realities that fuel suspicion and the politicization of religion. And drawing that idea of hyper-reality from Jean Baudrillard, the speaker shows how the dynamics can limit interreligious relations and invites us to return to dialogue and our shared humanity as emphasized by Pope Francis. So, without further ado, let's welcome our first speaker, Dr. Joko Lolono. Dr. Joko, the time is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participant and all the members of this faculty, I got my sound. It is a pleasure to be with you in this online seminar. Thank you for the presence and the openness to learn together. May this session be enriching and thought-provoking, and I look forward to our discussion in the Q&A. My name is Father Martinus Joko. I am from the Sanata Dharma University, Faculty of Theology, and I will present in front of you my discussion on this topic. Let me start the topic. Theme of my discussion is negotiating truth in the hyperreal world, because I work in the interreligious relation and also I did my doctorate in the religious studies. I work with the idea of interreligious relation in the digital age. I will start my presentation with showing you this picture. You know, from Indonesia, we have kecap. I found in the EI picture. This is kecap bangok, the soy sauce, the number one soy sauce in the world. They said so. And the question is this one. Do you believe that they are the number one? This is the way they represent themselves as the number one. But in actual world, we acknowledge that we have so many kind of this one, that we have so many soy sauce beside this bango. We have ABC, bango, we have sedap, nasional, Indofood, and others. This is the way Jean Baudrillard, a French philosopher that worked with the idea of advertisement, in which he mentioned in his work on advertisement, he mentioned about this one, the work about consumerism society. Humans in affluent societies are increasingly surrounded not by other people, but by object and media. Daily life is dominated by the use, consumption, and interpretation of goods and messages, from household technologies to mass media and advertising. This object and media creates a culture where object and symbol shape experience, even influencing imagination and dreams. I underscore the word shaping our experience, influencing our imagination, and also influencing our dream. And finally, in some certain situation, also influencing our did our work, what we do to others. This concept helped me to inform you, to present in front of you the idea of Christianization in Indonesia, the idea of that every single social work from the Christian in Indonesia, in many cases, regard as the way Christian people proselyte others, especially from the Muslim communities. This is the theoretical background of my study. In the contemporary digital age, there is rapid advancement in digital media and artificial intelligence that fundamentally alter the information landscape. As I mentioned, share into three different explanations. The first one is information overload. We have an unmanageable flow of data with varying accuracy and credibility. It means that some of the data are accurate enough, but many of them are not. Some of them are credible enough, but some of them are not. There is also proliferation of narratives. We have multiple realities exist simultaneously. How people regard on certain realities come with many kinds of narrative realities. And also there is an engineered perception. Narratives are increasingly and intentionally, I point out this word intentionally, constructed to manipulate and shape public perception. Public perception, not the reality itself, but perception of society. We have this logic of media that constructing truth. This is the way internet-mediated platform offer competing construction of reality. When I start to did this research, then it must be that we have this competing construction of reality. We have in our society mainstream media. We have newspaper. We have also the magazine. That in many cases adheres to established journalistic ethic. They relies on objective verification standard, so that as in earlier presentation I said, there is credibility, there is accuracy of data. But we have also with social media and so easy sharing information in the internet mediated platform, then we have so many alternative platforms that operate largely with underlying ideological agendas, offers alternatives, often unverified construction of truth. In these kinds of the society, we have also this algorithm-driven social media. Algorithm-driven social media mean the way we accept information influenced by the algorithm-driven social media that prioritizes engagement over accuracy, prioritizes engagement over this credibility. And unfortunately, they actively amplifies emotionally charged and polarizing content. Sorry for the committee, please, maybe somebody turn on the audio, because there is feedback here. So algorithm-driven social media, what does it mean? We have the problem with epistemic bubble. In social media, an epistemic bubble occurs when users are primarily exposed to information and opinions that confirm their existing belief, while alternative viewpoints are filtered out by algorithm or personal network. That is why somebody with the intention to look on or look for the information about certain information, they will have this epistemic bubble. Well, we have also what people call as echo chamber. An echo chamber in social media is sustained not only by algorithms, but by users who actively shape their environment. People tend to exclude differing voices by unfollowing, blocking, or discrediting them, while simultaneously amplifying similar views through likes, shares, and supportive comments. To understand this better, for example, when we in the general election 2024 and others, we sometimes look for information about one candidate and do not get any information from others, or get the good information for one candidate and only got the bad information for the competitors. Over time, this repeated agreement create a sense that this idea, for example, in the general election, then one candidate is the best without any bad background, while the other one is the worst without any good background. That these ideas are unquestionably true. As a result, widely accepted, individuals become less open to dialogues and more entrenched in their own belief. We will discuss later about this. So epistemic bubble filtered out by algorithm, while echo chamber actively save their environment. The data. Thank you for Father Bagus Laksana in helping me got this background of the study, because the background of my study I got from your journal, The Pain of Being Hybrid, Catholic Writers and Political Islam in Post-Colonial Indonesia. While Father Bagus Laksana worked with the Catholic writer, I worked with the idea of proselytization and also the idea of the way the Catholic G, one platform in Twitter and also Instagram, that work with the dialogue through humor in social media. The idea of Christian and Muslim relation in Indonesia, in many cases, are in a boundary in which, as I already mentioned, in many cases, every single, or in the idea of many people in Indonesia, every single social work from the Christian to the Muslim community is always about proselytization. This is intensifying by the politicization of religion. In the study of Father Bagus Laksana, religion is increasingly mobilized as a tool for political support, fundamentally shaping modern Christian-Muslim dynamic. This is enhanced by the Jakarta gubernatorial election. In the case of Basuki Cahayapurnama, a Protestant that competed with Anies Baswedan, a Muslim, and finally got this religious blasphemy at the time and got into prison. But the case of Basuki Cahayapurnama served as the primary demonstration of this political mobilization in action, that intensifying interreligious tensions and exposing the profound fragility of Indonesia's plural national identity. Well, actually, in the study of Father Bagus Laksana, this idea, this politicization, this idea of Muslim-Christian relation occurs amid ongoing negotiation of religion, race, and post-colonial dynamic. In his work, it is happened with the work of Catholic writer, but later on in my study, I study with other topic. My data I found from my both of my research in 2020, published in 2021, Internet-mediated interreligious dialogue, a study case on Catholic G's model of dialogue, the way they negotiate discussion and interreligious dialogue in the Twitter X, right now it is X, and also the case of in the case of Instagram. It is published in Journal of Asian Orientation of Theology in 2021, and also the other one is Imaginary Boundaries of Christianization in Indonesia. I work with Father Agus Widodo and published in International Journal of Asian Christianity in 2026. The context. Religion increasingly politicized during 2014 and 2019 election, general election, and also presidential election. In the middle of them, there is also, as already mentioned before, the gubernatorial election in Jakarta 2017, in which social media amplified binary identities, good and bad, Christian and Muslim, mobilizing exclusive social imagination. In 2014, garis lucu or humor line in Indonesia emerged first time from NU garis lucu, the one from Nahdlatul Ulama, NU garis lucu, introduced humor-based alternative discourse. In 2019, then Catholic G emerged and did counter monolithic polarized communication. They did key practices in 3 ways: daily dialogues, open discussion of sensitive issues. I will present in front of you later one of it, and coordinated social action. In this way, they promote inclusive interaction and social cohesion. And as the result, they offer a replicable model for interfaith dialogues, that it is possible for us to still have this way of interreligious dialogue and discussion, especially in the social media. For example, humor way of talking about religion. In June 21, 2019, when Deddy Corbuzier, you know, he is one of famous actor in Indonesia, converted from Catholicism to Islam, most responses were controversial. They said that this is like a bad situation or others, but then Catholic garis lucu, offer a different tone in tweet and tweeting. Today, we hand over at Corbuzier to NU garis lucu for further guidance and circumcision. And there is a TikTok there is a discussion between them with the NU garis lucu. They said this way: NU garis lucu replied, "Okay, we will continue to preserve your good teachings." There is no tension of competition. There is no tension of being in competing situation, but there is a tension of this is a part of our daily life that sometimes people convert to other religion. And in Indonesia especially, we know that this religious conversion is not that it is like monthly or yearly. Many of us convert to other religion. There is subtext of satire, but good for us to think that religious conversion or even religious discussion do not always speak about hard way or proselytizing or others. But it is said, who says at Corbuzier left the church? He realized he rarely attended church and close to convert through NU garis lucu, so he could join Banser and officially guard churches every week. This humor works because it is anchored in deep mutual respect. this situation, as you know, refers to the real world role of Panzer and youth wing that helping secure churches during major Christian celebration. In this way of discussion, in this way of dialogue through the media, social media that influence also many people, many followers, because they have also this comment, they have time to learn about religion, then the joke doesn't mock, but it honors a shared commitment to interfaith safety. We do not need to have religion that compete to each other. We need a religion or religions that work hand in hand in maintaining our society today. The idea of proselytization do not stand alone, but stand together with the other reality. In this way, many of Nahdlatul Ulama youth and the Catholic youth that want to have the way of living together, and there are many occasions, many opportunities for us to live together and share our humanity. This is my first data. The first data, there is the comedic bridge, there is joke and integrate, there is permeable, respectful, and communal, followed by acknowledging and playing with differences. While algorithm build the walls, share humanity and good love builds the door. Maybe this is the conclusion of my first data. While my second data, I got from the background is the suspicion of every single social work by the Christian to the Muslim community as the way of proselytization. Then I did research in two communities that work as the disaster response. Yakum Emergency Unit belongs to the Christian community. They have their office in Kaliurang Street. And also we have Karina KAS, the disaster response unit belongs to the Archdiocese of Semarang. In our research, then the imaginary boundaries constructed by media and amplified by certain groups do not necessarily reflect the reality experienced by all communities. In practice, these divisions are neither absolute nor universally accepted. This is evidenced in the work of Yakum Emergency Unit and Karina KAS, in which cannot be regarded as a failure in carrying out social and humanitarian mission. On the contrary, there have been numerous instances where their initiatives were welcome and positively received by local communities. There is like a situation in which some of Muslim community reject them, but many of them accept them and they could continue their social work. So, the digitized imagination, there is a construction of absolute conflict and unyielding boundaries. But in my research, the main insight is that interreligious relations are contextual, as already also mentioned by Father Bagus Laksana, negotiated, and frequently collaborative. There is a gap, a stark contrast exists between imagined digitized hostility and actual everyday cooperation. In our field research, we found that there is a dynamics on the ground. There is a nuance where rejection and support frequently coexist. Coexist means exist together. Rejection and support within the exact same Muslim communities. There are also some mediation from local actors, for example, from Nahdlatul Ulama leaders. They act as critical mediators. They help us to mediate, to bridge between communities that legitimize humanitarian work. And in the further discussion, then we also have continuity program successfully continued wherever foundational trust and understanding were built. This is my analysis upon my data. I use the idea of hyperreality, the idea used by Song Buldiat framework of simulacra. Core premise of his idea is that in postmodern society, representation no longer merely reflect reality. They produce and replace it. For example, we have elephant here. And as you can notice that this representation stands a sign that stand in for reality. But there is the way of blurring reality here. Simulacrum means a representation loses its reference to original reality. It stands alone, functioning as if real. For example, in the way of Christianization, it is happened that it is the only truth, as I already mentioned in my first picture, that bangok soy sauce is the only one, no other. We do not accept many other options. In continuation, then continued reproduction of simulacrum form a system of sign and narrative. When we reply it, then the one that it's not real become real and become communal imagination. Finally, hyperreality, the boundary between reality and representation completely collapses. The simulated becomes more real than reality itself. In the political narrative as simulacra, application to Indonesia, the politicization of religion, 2014 and 2019 election, Jakarta gubernatorial race operate as the deliberate production of simulacra. They construct the divide. There is a rejection of leaders based on religion. Do not choose any Christian leader because we are Muslim, or do not choose Muslim leader because we are Christian. There is binaries. There are binaries that do not reflect actually the situation on the ground, but they are symbolic construction. But unfortunately, this symbolic construction influence the way we, like I already mentioned in the second or third slide, the way we dream of reality, the way we look at reality, the way we imagine our society. The mechanism, amplified by algorithm-driven social media, these narratives are repeated and reinforced until they form a dominant normalized perception of a sharply divided society. A dominant means only one out of many. Dominant means the one. Normalized only one way, and normalized perception, many people think that is normal, that our society sharply divided. The hyperreality of Christianization. So this is the way this idea work in our society according to my research. The threat narrative function as a widely believed representation of threat despite lacking consistent empirical evidence in daily life. Suspicion of proselytization, as happened in Karina KAS and Yakum Emergency Unit, is sustained through discourse and collective imagination. not universal experience. So I myself, when we did our research, then found that sometimes our communal imagination do not has reference in the real life, real communities, because in the real community, we have so many sharing identity. So this is the lived reality. Suspicion heavily exist together with contrasting realities of support, protection, and collaboration from the same communities. This is the way media social influence our society, because sometimes we simplify our social life. For example, that I am as a Catholic do not should not have no should not have any relation to Muslim communities. But in real life, I have family Muslim, I have friends from Muslim communities, uh, I have colleagues from the Muslim communities, and we share identity in as Indonesia. We share identity as somebody who work together in the social work, or somebody who love, for example, the football teams like Manchester United or many others. So there is a danger of hyperreality. What is it? The danger of hyperreality is simplified, antagonistic images, us versus them, Christian versus Muslim, that become more influential than complex daily coexistence, tricking individual into viewing relation as inherently conflictual. In the real life, it is not that way we look at our society. Our society is complex, do not that simple, that we are in a, as Max Weber said about a binary opposition, that we are in a one side and another side are the other communities. So, in the era when we have this divide society, then the invitation of Pope Francis in Fratelli Tutti, for me, help us to understand our society today. He invites us to make and to work for the culture of encounter. He said this way, in today's world, the sense of belonging to a single human family is fading, and the dream of working together for justice and peace seems an outdated utopia. What reigns instead is a cool, comfortable, and globalized indifference, born of deep disillusionment concealed behind deceptive illusion, thinking that we are all powerful, while failing to realize that we are all in the same boat. This illusion, unmindful of the great fraternal values, lead to a sort of cynicism that is a temptation we face if we go down the road of disenchantment and disappointment. Isolation and withdrawal into one's own interests are never the way to restore hope and bring about renewal. I reply, isolation and withdrawal into one's own interests are never the way to restore hope and bring about renewal. Pope Francis invites us to work for the culture of encounter, because the culture of encounter are the way to restore hope and bring about renewal, as also mentioned by Father Bagus Laksana. Rather, it is closeness, it is the culture of encounter that help us to restore hope and bring about renewal. Isolation, no. Closeness, yes. Culture clash, no. Culture of encounter, yes. So, in other document, Pope Francis and Antiqua and Nova, the document that talk about artificial intelligence, he said this way: we are ordered to have interpersonal design. Human beings are ordered by their very nature to interpersonal communion. possessing the capacity to know one another, to give themselves in love, and to enter into communion. Our intelligence also increase through relation. Human intelligence is not isolated. It finds fullest expression in dialogue, collaboration, and solidarity. What I want to say that we will not have any dialogue, collaboration, or solidarity if we are living together. We need to have this living. We will not have any dialogue, collaboration, and solidarity if we do not have friend. You need friend, you need community, and our community in Indonesia is not only the Catholic but also interreligious, those coming from other religious affiliation. This is a divine vocation, as Pope Francis said. The human person is called to share by knowledge and love in God's own life. This ties communion with God directly to communion with others. And this is the ultimate standard of being Christian, of being Catholic. Even more sublime than knowing many things is the commitment to care for one another. You need to underscore this one. Even more sublime than knowing many things is the commitment to care for one another. As it is mentioned by St. Paul in his letter to the Corinthians, that for if I understand all mysteries and all knowledge, but do not have love, I'm nothing. This is it is one of quote by Pope Francis in Antiqua et Nova. My conclusion. This conclusion actually is the answer of the question of our very seminar, international seminar, answering the question, what does it mean to be human? To be human, we need to navigate hyper-reality. In a world where reality exists among realities, then critical thinking is the essential tool to navigate safely. We know that as human beings, we have opportunity to choose. We have ability to choose, to make a choice. As human agency, while hyper-realities built by artificial intelligence and algorithm feel inevitable, we retain the power of choice, You want to believe or not, to question or to accept, to maintain a critical stance against constructive division or not. In the context of my study, then, do you believe that Christian-Muslim relation is only shaping by the idea of proselytization, of convert people to other religion? I do not think so, because we have so many sharing ground that we can do social work. We have so many things in common. So there is the dual nature of technology. The digital era and artificial intelligence are not solely tools of division, but they also possess the power to maintain human cohesion, as already done by the Catholic Twitter, and Instagram platform that work for the discussion between Christian and Muslim in social media. This is my final slide. Bridging the divide, collaboration over suspicion. As conclusion, we need to redefine the relationship. We need to understand the situation of Indonesia today. Do not accept slightly the idea of proselytization or the idea of suspicion between Christian and Muslim relation, because Christian and Muslim and Islamic relation in Indonesia are defined not just by suspicion of proselytization, but profoundly by collaboration, shared identity, and also mutual support, as already done as in my data, also by the Panzer, how they help us to save our celebration in the church for years. It is done since 1997, already almost 30 years. We need to have the readiness for encounter despite persisting prejudice. My research shows immense community readiness to engage positively when approached with openness and sensitivity. So the picture of suspicion is not the only picture. We have so many kind of possibility. My final conclusion is this one. We must reject the deepening imagination of division in the context of Indonesia. We must actively find reasons to strengthen humanitarian encounters through internet-mediated dialogue, as already done by the
Recording in
and
progress.
subdue it. This command establishes a dynamic relationship between humanity and the created order. Dominion in this context is not to be understood as arbitrary control or exploitation, but as a form of stewardship rooted in divine trust. Creation is given as a gift, yet also as a task, a reality therefore to be cultivated, ordered, and brought to fruition. This foundational vocation finds its continuation and fulfillment in the mission entrusted by Christ to his disciples. So the words we find in Matthew chapter 28, "Go, therefore, and make disciples of all nations," echoes and extend the earlier command of Genesis. These two moments, creation and mission, are not to be understood as separate or unrelated, but as intrinsically united within the unfolding of God's covenantal relationship with humanity. Together, they reveal a continuity between the cultural mandate and the Great Commission. Central to this vocation is the primacy of divine blessing. Human activity originates not in autonomous initiative, but in the prior gift of God. It is because humanity is blessed that it is capable of generating culture, organizing societies, and developing technologies. Technology in this sense is not an accidental byproduct of human history, but an expression of humanity's participation in the unfolding possibilities of creation. However, the biblical narrative also reveals the fragility of this vocation. The entrance of sin distorts the proper exercise of human dominion, transforming what was intended as stewardship into self-assertion. We find this reality described in two biblical episodes. First of all, we encounter the events of Noah, and then also through the imagery of Babel. Despite these distortions, the cultural mandate remains operative throughout salvation history. In the covenant with Abraham, the themes of blessing and fruitfulness are reaffirmed, pointing towards a future in which God's purposes for humanity will be fulfilled. This trajectory reaches its culmination in the person of Christ. Fully embedded within a particular culture and historical context, he engages the material and social realities of his time, while simultaneously transcending them. The missionary mandate entrusted by Christ, so the words, "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations," represent the universalization of the original cultural calling. The task of forming culture is inseparable from the task of forming disciples. Both are oriented towards the realization of the kingdom of God. In Christ, the cultural mandate is not only preserved but elevated, integrated into the broader movement of redemption and promise of a new creation. In the contemporary world, this mandate unfolds within a context profoundly shaped by technological development. Technology and culture exist in a reciprocal relationship. Each influences and reshapes the other. Technological systems arise from cultural values and, in turn, shape patterns of thought, behavior, and social organization. Within this dynamic, technology can indeed function as a genuine expression of the cultural mandate. It enables the transformation of natural possibilities into concrete realities, contributing to human well-being and the development of society. Yet such developments also introduce significant challenges. Technology can foster conditions that undermine human dignity, exacerbate inequality, and damage the natural environment. It can become oriented towards profit, efficiency, or self-perpetuation, rather than towards the good of the person. In some cases, technological systems appear to acquire a momentum of their own, shaping human life in ways that are difficult to control or question. These realities raise pressing technological questions, like should technology be resisted, or can it be integrated in a faithful Christian vision of life? A technological response must begin by reaffirming the centrality of the human person, created in the image of God. The purpose of technology is not to replace or diminish the person, but to serve and enhance human flourishing. Technology must be culturally sensitive, respectful of human traditions and communities. It must be transparent and truthful in its application. It must seek economic viability without compromising ecological responsibility. It should reflect a sense of beauty that points beyond itself to the Creator. And, above all, it must be ordered towards justice and the promotion of the common good. The ultimate criterion of such discernment is always love, which constitutes the fulfillment of Christian life. Therefore, we can say that the main challenge here is not technology in itself. The main challenge is the orientation of technology. So when properly understood, technology can function not as an absolute or a quasi-sacred reality, but as a kind of instrument, as a mediating reality, which can help to continue God's word work in today's world. Now let us move enter a bit into St. Augustine. So building upon the biblical vision of the cultural mandate, the theological evaluation of technology may further be deepened through the insights of Augustine of Hippo, particularly as found in his writing, De Doctrina Christiana. What does St. Augustine do here? St. Augustine reflects on the arts, that is, the various human skills and crafts. And these reflections, they offer a framework that remains relevant for interpreting the place of technology within our culture. St. Augustine's classification of the arts provides a helpful lens through which modern technology can be reconsidered. He distinguishes between those activities that produce enduring objects. They can be called productive arts, for example, things which you produce, like building a house. That is an art. There are those activities, so secondly, that cooperate with the processes of nature. We call them cooperative arts, like medicine, farming, navigation. And then there are those arts that consist primarily in action, active arts, such as dancing. So this tripartite structure resonates strongly with the contemporary technological landscape, in which we encounter systems that construct, sustain, and perform. What is particularly significant, however, is Augustine's underlying claim. He says that all such human activities are grounded in learned experience, a dynamic interplay between memory and anticipation. At the same time, Augustine resists any temptation to absolutize these arts. He does not advocate technical mastery as an end in itself, so our objective is not to be expert dancers, expert doctors, or to know how to build the most beautiful and perfect house. Rather, he proposes a measured engagement, a basic familiarity with these arts sufficient to enable discernment. So the purpose of such knowledge is ultimately hermeneutical. It prepares the mind, so these arts help us to grasp the deeper meaning of Scripture, in which Scripture normally describes different arts, different crafts, which are found in everyday practices. Therefore, arts, and we can extend this idea of Augustine to technology. Technology is also an art, and these arts serve as a mediating function. Therefore, who is the artist according to St. Augustine? The artist is the one who understands the principles underlying his or her work and directs them towards what is good. So in this sense, he enters into the concept of memory, memoria. Therefore, what is memoria? Memoria is the accumulation of knowledge, knowledge which is handed over from a generation to the other. So learning is getting to know this memory, a process of inner appropriation of this intergenerational memory, which lead us towards a better vision of life, to understand better who we are, who is God, what are the scriptures, what is the meaning of life. Therefore, technology is, in this light, an art, not an end in itself, which is good, obviously, but rather as a help, a mediation, in order to elevate oneself for something higher. Now let us rethink all of this, and this leads us to the second subsection of my presentation, that is rethinking technology in the light of faith. So what we are saying is not only useful for the practical dimension of technology, but even more for our theological reflection. Technology has gradually assumed a formative role in shaping the rhythms, habits, and expectations of daily existence. Its integration into ordinary life has been so seamless that its influence often remains unnoticed. By presenting itself as efficient, reliable, and conducive to comfort, technology has entered the fabric of human experience without provoking significant resistance. Beneath the surface of ease and accessibility, however, a more complex reality emerges. The technological environment has contributed to the rise of a culture increasingly oriented towards consumption. Human attention is drawn less towards the processes of creation and more towards the consumption of finished products. As a result, the capacity to appreciate effort, craftsmanship, and meaning risks are being diminished. The search for truth itself can be displaced by the management of information, where knowledge is reduced to data and discernment to selection, pick and choose. This transformation is not merely economic, but also anthropological. Technology shapes not only what individuals do, but how they think and relate. The structures through which technological systems operate can subtly condition human behavior, encouraging dependence on pre-designed solutions rather than critical engagement. Technological mediation has reconfigured the nature of social interaction, often privileging immediacy and efficiency over presence and depth. Traditional forms of communal life, like family and local relationships, can be weakened as digital devices provide alternative sources of connection and satisfaction. The increasing prevalence of remote work and digital communication further reduces opportunities for direct and embodied encounter. This obviously has created different questions which the Church, through her discernment, has tried to tackle and answer. Equally significant is the transformation of silence. While before silence was recognized as a necessary condition for reflection and encounter with God, today technology has taken over this silence by constant stimulation. The question of truth further complicates this landscape. We live in a post-truth context whereby we have a proliferation of misinformation, manipulation, and competing narratives. So technical tools which were once used to enhance reality now have the capacity to distort reality. Therefore, it is very difficult today to judge what is true or not, what is good or what is not good. This situation reflects a deeper cultural shift, in which transcendence is often marginalized in favor of immanence. The focus on the individual as the primary source of meaning has contributed to a revitalization of truth, where personal perspectives, that is, my own opinion, is elevated above objective truths and realities. Technology, in turn, amplifies this tendency by providing platforms through which individual narratives can be constructed, disseminated, and defended. Technology, unfortunately, has also contributed to a phenomena which we call today cancel culture. That is, we use digital tools to exclude or discredit people in the public sphere. For the Church, these issues, they're both a challenge and an opportunity. On one hand, technology can be a challenge for human life and spiritual life, since it can deal with superficiality, isolation, and confusion. On the other hand, it can offer new possibilities for evangelization. Today we're remembering 1 year from the demise of Pope Francis. And Pope Francis has left us an important document, Laudato Si, which can help us reflect theologically on technology. This encyclical does not merely address ecological concerns in a narrow sense, rather it reframes the entire relationship between faith, science, and technological development. At the core, we find the question of integral development, a concept which challenges our understandings of progress, and therefore a whole re-evaluation of what we mean by human advancement. One of the main concerns in Laudato Si is the technocratic paradigm, which we find in paragraphs 106 to 114. This paradigm reflects a mode of thinking in which technological capability becomes the primary measure of progress, often at the expense of ethical reflection and human values. Within this framework, power is pursued for its own sake, and the capacity to manipulate reality is mistaken for genuine advancement. The result is a growing imbalance between technical ability and moral responsibility. In this context, the question of discernment is paramount. The Church is called to evaluate technological development not merely in terms of immediate benefits, but in light of its capacity to foster authentic human existence. There is a growing risk that humanity is no longer directing technological progress, but is instead being shaped, at times even dominated by technology. So the figure of the Homo technologicus emerges as a key concern. A human being defined increasingly by technical capacity, yet at risk of losing sight of deeper realities. This condition is closely linked to a disordered understanding of power. Technological systems can create the illusion that responsibility is diffused or externalized, allowing individuals to distance themselves
should I try to?
Have you find the file?
Yeah. It just tells me that I cannot upload it for some reason.
Oh.
Because it's here, but so maybe I should.
Okay, so Chris already got your presentation. Shall he share from his laptop?
Okay, now it should work. Wait, just a second. Put it like this, and then I guess now share.
Recording in progress.
Can you see it now?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So now you can see it. Okay. Then let me just. Okay.
Yeah.
It works, right?
Okay.
Okay. Good. So the title of my talk is "The Dream of the Perfect Human Being," and I thought it might be interesting to discuss and the Christian image of the human person. So tonight I would like to speak about a topic that has become increasingly important in recent years, transhumanism. I'm pretty sure that some of you heard about this movement, this academic movement, and what I would like to do in this talk is to explore the relationship between the understanding of transhumanist visions of human enhancement and the Christian understanding of the human person. So basically, I try to do two things. On the one hand, to present to you transhumanist understandings of the human person, and on the other hand, then I will ask the question, how can we, from a Christian perspective, evaluate these transhumanist visions? My presentation has 5 chapters, 5 parts. First, I will briefly introduce the concept of transhumanism, and then I will focus on one particular striking transhumanist vision, the idea of technological immortality, especially as it is considered in the form of mind uploading. Then I will present several philosophical criticisms of this idea. And then the second part of my structure will be how should we respond to transhumanism from a Christian perspective. And finally, in the last part, I will continue with this reflection by referring specifically to Karl Rahner and his ideas on, he didn't, of course, in his reflections, he didn't have in mind transhumanism, but we will see that there are a few ideas that come very close to what now is called transhumanism when Rahner reflects critically about these ideas. So I would like to start with the idea of transhumanism. Okay. Oh, here we go. So the concept of transhumanism. What is transhumanism? Transhumanism is not just a technological movement. It's also a philosophical and cultural vision. And at its core lies the conviction that the human being, as we know it today, should not be regarded as the final stage of evolution. Human beings are seen as unfinished, perhaps even as a transitional being, and science and technology, and that's very important, it's science and technology that are seen as the tools by which this unfinished being can be radically transformed and improved. In one sense, this is not entirely new. Human beings have always tried to overcome their limitations. Just think about medicine, think about technical tools, think also about education, which we use in order to make life better, safer, longer, in order to make ourselves better beings. So in this broad sense, we might say that human beings have always been creatures who do not simply live or adapt to the world, but they reshape, they restructure the world in order to live well in it. And transhumanism belongs to this broader history of human tendency to self-transcendence, but the crucial difference is that transhumanism aims at radicalizing this idea. What distinguishes transhumanism from earlier projects is not simply the desire to improve the human condition. Rather, it is the conviction that technology can and should be used to overcome the present boundaries of what it means to be human. So that's very important, that transhumanism shares this idea that technology, that science, should be used to overcome the present status of human life, that it should improve human life by means of technology and medicine. And the transhumanist declaration, this is just a short piece out of this declaration, you can find it also online. This transhumanist declaration expresses this idea very clearly. It speaks of the possibility that science and technology might overcome aging, cognitive deficits, involuntary suffering, and perhaps even our confinement to earthly existence. It also states that a great part of the human potential of what we can become still lies there unused, and that one may imagine scenarios in the future in which the human condition becomes far more meaningful, more fulfilled than it is right now. So the important point is that transhumanism is not merely about some medical progress or some technological gadgets that we can use. Rather, it has a very different idea what it means to have a human future. It carries a philosophy of the more. It says what we should aim at for the human future is more life, more intelligence, more control, more happiness, more physiological and cognitive possibilities, and so on. And this is also why so many transhumanists regard aging as a disease and death as a kind of scandal. Death is no longer seen as an unavoidable confinement or horizon of human existence, but as a technical problem that just waits to be solved. The human being should no longer remain the passive victim of nature, of the forces of nature. Rather, the human being should become the active designer of his or her own biological and cognitive existence. Stefan Storgner, he's a well-known German transhumanist. He offers a very interesting image for making this idea of the future more concrete. He compares humanity to an adolescent. Just as a child is strongly shaped by external influences, by the parents, by the school, and only later on in its youth begins to take control of its own life. So Storgner suggests humanity has until now been dependent on natural selection. But now humanity is entering an evolutionary teenage phase in which it becomes increasingly able to take control of evolution itself. So the idea is that we as Homo sapiens sapiens are now in an intermediate stage of evolution. Evolution no longer proceeds in an uncontrolled biological way, but it can be increasingly directed and manipulated through new scientific knowledge and technological intervention. So this image, I think, captures essentially what transhumanism is about. The transition from being shaped by nature to becoming the conscious shaper of nature, including our own human nature. At this point, one can already see both the attraction but also the danger of this transhumanist project. The attraction lies in the promise of liberation from suffering, weaknesses, frailty, and limitations. The danger lies in the assumption that human life becomes fully intelligible only when it becomes fully available for technological control. And this brings us to one of the boldest and most controversial transhumanist ideas, the idea of technological immortality, or the idea of immortality thanks to technology. So just to summarize, the idea of transhumanism is that right now human life is limited and that these limits should be overcome. Aging, frailty, diseases, and death are a kind of like a scandal given to us by evolution, and these scandals must be fought. They should be overcome. And the idea is that on the long run, this overcoming of these limitations might even lead to a form of technological immortality. This brings me now to the second part of my talk, the vision of technological immortality via mind uploading. When people hear about transhumanism, they very often think of implants, of artificial intelligence, gene editing, or life extension. Perhaps the most radical vision of transhumanism, however, is the idea of mind uploading. What is meant by this? Mind uploading is the idea that human consciousness might one day be transferred from the biological brain into an artificial medium, for example, into a digital system or an artificial body. So the basic idea is this: if the brain could be scanned in sufficient detail, presuming that the brain is the organ of our conscious life, right, then its relevant structures and processes could be replicated in another, like technological substance. A software-based copy could be created that matches the original brain in all essential respects. At first sight, this might sound like science fiction. And indeed, it still belongs to the realm of pure speculation. However, it would be too easy to dismiss it simply as like the fantasy of a few philosophers or scientists. Discussions about artificial intelligence and the future of machine cognition have led some researchers to consider the possibility that artificial systems might eventually exceed human intelligence by a very large margin. And whether or not this will happen, it shows that such ideas are taken seriously, that such ideas are discussed in scientific and philosophical circles. Now, what assumptions underlie the idea of mind uploading? The fundamental assumption is that what ultimately exists, or at least what ultimately matters when it comes to human consciousness, when it comes to our identity, then this is information and the structures of information. According to this transhumanist understanding, higher levels of reality, including consciousness, selfhood, that what makes us a person, can in principle be understood in terms of informational patterns. So applied to human beings, this means that the essence of the person is understood as an objectively describable informational structure, as a kind of data architecture shaped by evolution. A familiar analogy supports this view. We know from everyday experience that software can be transferred from one piece of hardware to another, provided that the hardware is functionally compatible with the software. Right? We can just upload one program to a new laptop. If the old laptop is broken, given that the new laptop supports this kind of program. And if we take this analogy, then the idea is that the software remains the same, even if the material carrier changes. And if we extend this analogy now to human consciousness, and then the conclusion is straightforward. As long as the relevant functional structures remain the same, as long as these structures are preserved, consciousness should also be preserved, even if it is no longer realized in a biological structure like the brain, but transferred to some artificial medium. So from this perspective, the task of future technology is pretty clear. It must develop an artificial medium capable of realizing the same functional organization that currently exists in the human brain and body. And once this happens, when we succeed with this task, then also a transfer of the mind, a mind upload, might be possible. Now I want to note something important. The appeal of this vision of mind uploading does not lie only in technological curiosity. It lies also in its existential promise. Mind uploading offers not merely better medicine, but the possibility of survival beyond biological death. It offers a kind of secular vision of immortality. And this is precisely why it deserves also a more succinct philosophical scrutiny. So to summarize, the basic idea of mind uploading is that we have to realize a kind of functional isomorphism between our brain or all the relevant biological structures of consciousness and the yet to be built technological devices that might one future day carry on our consciousness. And once this functional isomorphism is realized, then the data that are now constituting our consciousness could be transferred to this artificial medium and continue to function there. And this brings me now, so I was just trying to summarize quickly this idea of mind uploading. And what I would like to do now in the center part of my talk is to criticize this idea of technological immortality. I would like to do this by referring to 3 criticisms. Of course, there are many more, but due to limits of time, I will just limit myself to these 3 criticisms. So the first criticism is that we should consider consciousness as a natural phenomenon. According to this first criticism, consciousness does not simply float somehow above the body as a kind of transferable or uploadable pattern of information, but rather consciousness emerges in continuity with complex biological processes. So consciousness is rooted in life. It emerges, so to say, out from a living organism. It's part of life, of complex form of lives, and this one forward stage of development of these complex forms of life. So according to this understanding, consciousness is not merely linked to having some body or some other medium, but it is linked to the reality of a living body. Consciousness is the expression of embodied life, not an independent software package. So this would be, if this idea of consciousness is correct, then this would be a powerful objection to the hardware-software analogy. In computers, software and hardware can indeed be clearly distinguished. But in the case of the relation between consciousness and body may be far more intimate, may be far more intimately interconnected. The body may not be a replaceable container for the mind, but it may be constitutive of the mind itself. And if that is true, that the whole model of a flexible transfer becomes questionable. One cannot simply assume that a non-biological realization of the same informational structure would also generate the same consciousness. So it might be that this flexible hardware-software model of consciousness is a misleading analogy right from the beginning. Then the second criticism. Our access to reality is not the access of a neutral and disembodied observer. We encounter the world always as embodied subjects. We perceive, move, act, suffer, and respond through our life, lived through our bodies. And the phenomenological tradition distinguishes very clearly between the body as an object and the body as it's lived, or as the body lived from within. Let's put it that way. So my body is not merely something that we have. It's not merely an object that I can observe, but it is also the medium through which I am present in the world, through which I interact with the world. So it is not merely a physical instrument I used for engaging with the world, but it is constitutive of my being in the world. This insight has especially been worked out by people like Edmund Husserl or also Merleau-Ponty. And Merleau-Ponty describes the body as the vehicle of being in the world. We are not in our body as a pilot is in an airplane. Rather, our bodily existence is the very form in which we inhabit the world, in which we are in the world. And this has, of course, major implications for the transhumanist idea. If our existence is fundamentally embodied in this deep phenomenological sense, then one cannot simply move the self from one biological substrate to another without transforming consciousness also at these more basic levels which are also relevant. So a radical change in embodiment would not merely alter one external condition, it would rather affect the very mode of how we experience ourselves and the world itself. And it seems that the dream of mind uploading tends to underestimate this point. It assumes that consciousness basically remains the same, even if our embodied nature changes. But phenomenology suggests the opposite. Profound changes in embodiment may also mean profound changes in selfhood. Now I come to my third criticism. Human existence is never purely individual. We become ourselves through relations with other persons. Self-consciousness is not formed in isolation, but it is shaped through recognition by others, through speaking with others, through interacting with others, and through shared forms of a communal life. And these interpersonal processes are not purely mental, but they are mediated by gesture, by facial expressions, voice, bodily presence, behavior, and all the subtle forms of communication that belong to embodied life. This means that if one radically alters the bodily basis of human existence, one also changes fundamentally the conditions of interpersonal life. A being that exists in a purely digital environment or in a radically different artificial body would not simply continue ordinary human sociality unchanged. The forms of mutual understanding, vulnerability, presence, and response that structure our interpersonal lives are deeply embodied. So again, this bodily dimension of our existence is fundamentally important for the ways how we communicate with others, how we interact with the world. And here again, the transhumanist model appears to be too abstract. It often focuses on intelligence, on memory, on cognitive capacities, on computational capacity, but it neglects the fact that we are social, historical, and embodied beings whose identity is co-constituted in relation to others. So I come to a first brief interim conclusion. What this idea of mind uploading overlooks. If we bring these three criticisms together, then a broader picture emerges. Other human beings do not appear to us merely as consciousness hidden inside the body. They appear as embodied living beings whose minds are seen, are expressed in their bodily presence, right? In the face of another person, we can immediately see whether she's happy, sad, whether she's thinking hard about a problem, and so on. So consciousness, body, and worldly existence form a complex unity. And this and the vision of mind uploading underestimates this unity. It underestimates the intricate relationship between consciousness and embodiment, between selfhood and biological life, between personal identity and interpersonal relationships. And this brings me now to the theological question: how should Christianity deal with transhumanism? So I would like to reflect briefly about the nature, the question of human nature, what human nature is about. Some people assume that the Christian response to transhumanism must be a rejection of this idea, right? Rejection of enhancement, rejection of biotechnology, rejection of human self-transformation. But I think that the matter is more subtle. And let us begin, therefore, with a basic anthropological question. What is human nature? Transhumanist visions are likely to be welcomed by those who do not attribute any particular intrinsic value to the biological constitution of the human being, as we have seen. If one does not regard human life as a kind of mystery that calls for respect, for reverence, then one may readily approve interventions aimed at increasing positive states of life. Less disease, less aggression, less suffering, more cognitive power, more well-being, and so on. So from this point of view, enhancement seems almost self-evidently desirable. But what should Christians say? Can they support at least some ethically guided forms of self-improvement, or should they entirely reject this enterprise? Public perception often associates Christian voices with conservative opposition, but Christian thought contains both caution, but also a complex positive relationship to some ideas of transhumanism. A useful point of reference in this context is the document Communio et Administratio issued by the Vatican in 2004. This document addresses genetic interventions aimed at enhancement. So I should say this clearly: the document does not discuss transhumanism, but genetic intervention. That's the main focus of this document. And the central concern is that the human being does not possess an unlimited right of disposal over his or her own biological nature. The document warns against treating the human person as something fully available for technological production or optimization. It rejects the idea that human beings may create a kind of superhuman form of human life by manipulating the biological basis of the human person as we know it now. It also insists that the uniqueness of each human person must not be instrumentalized for for some external goods or goals. And at the heart of this paper lies the theological view that human beings are creatures of God and therefore bear also the image of God. So human life is not a raw material for arbitrary redesign, but the dignity of the human person is grounded in a relationship with God and the intrinsic worth of the creature, and not in what a human or how human beings can perform, how efficient they are, or how we can upgrade their capabilities. So this is an important counterpoint to the transhumanist logic of optimization. Christianity resists any view according to which the value of the human being increases simply in proportion to power, capacities, intelligence, longevity, or control. And yet Christianity is not committed to passivity. It does not teach that all interventions in nature are wrong, that any transcendence of human nature as we know it now is bad. On the contrary, the human vocation includes responsibility for the world, for healing, for care, and the wise use of knowledge and scientific progress. That is also why the relation between Christianity and transhumanism is not simply one of opposition. If one, for instance, looks back in history, then one might even detect some forms of a Christian transhumanism. For instance, one historical example is Francis Bacon. While Bacon believed at his time, when new technologies, new sciences emerged, that these sciences and technological progress could help human beings to limit the negative effects of the fall. So you can see that he has this deep Christian understanding that we are living, or that we are now in a deficient state due to the fall, due to original sin. But we should use knowledge, we should use science to overcome at least some negative effects of original sin. So for him, for Bacon, this fall involves a double alienation. On the one hand, alienation from God, which can only be overcome by divine intervention. But on the other side, it highlights also alienation from creation, alienation from nature, which human beings can at least partly address through knowledge and new technologies. So according to this perspective, science can contribute to a partial restoration of human life in the world, as it is meant to be from a divine perspective. It can improve our damaged epistemic condition and allow us to know and shape nature more efficiently. In this sense, technology may serve human flourishing without pretending to replace divine grace or the need for divine intervention in order to become or in order to restore healing in a full and profound way. Another important figure, which I just mentioned in my talk, would be the Jesuit Teilhard de Chardin, who tried to connect evolutionary thought with Christian theology. And he viewed technological development as well as part of the evolutionary movement of humanity. And he had also this idea that this technological progress should be used for the good of human people, and that technology can also help us to improve our relationship with God. Of course, these examples are very different from secular transhumanism. But it's interesting to see that the same technologies can appear in both contexts, but the meaning, how to use or how to understand these technologies change profoundly. Within a Christian framework, technological development cannot be the source of salvation, but it can be ideally one instrument within a creaturely history that remains oriented towards God. So technology can be used to bring us closer to God again. So one might say Christianity can, under certain conditions, affirm forms of enhancement, of healing, even of self-transformation, but it cannot endorse a worldview in which technological power becomes a substitute for divine salvation and redemption. This brings me to the final part of my talk, some reflections from Karl Rahner. Rahner asks about the theological relevance of a future in which human beings become capable of manipulating themselves at a deep biological level. So at his time, also genetic manipulation was the big topic in the 60s and 70s of the last century. And so he writes that a radically new epoch is coming, one in which the human being discovers himself as, he calls it, operable. So that humans have or gain increasingly the power to operate on themselves, to change themselves. And this new epoch does not merely concern this or that aspects of the person, or rather says, but it concerns the human being as a whole. These new technologies aim to penetrate into the deepest structures of the human being in order to transform them. I think this is an astonishingly far-sighted diagnosis. Rahner saw very early that modern technology would not just stop at some external tools, but it would increasingly reach into the constitution of the human person itself. Now, one might expect that from a theological perspective, this movement has to be seen in a very negative way or should be rejected. But Rahner's ideas are more complex. He argues that Christian anthropology should understand the human being as a being capable of self-manipulation. Why? Because the human being is a being of freedom. So he says, because we are free, we can also manipulate ourselves. We are free to manipulate ourselves. It's a different question whether that's a good thing or not, but freedom gives us the capacity to manipulate our own existence. And Rahner says that human existence is not finished in advance, so we are not a finished creature, but as humans, as free individuals, we are radically open. We face an open future, an unfinished future, and therefore we are also called to shape this future and before God. Rahner therefore insists that human nature is not simply a fixed or closed essence. Human beings are not static entities, but by nature we are historically and existentially open. And this is a remarkable point. It means that a Christian anthropology need not cling to a rigid, biologically fixed concept of human nature. Rather, the human being is open to self-transformation. At the same time, Rahner is far from celebrating every possible intervention. On the contrary, he insists that precisely Christians should remember that processes of self-manipulation may have grave or even irreversible consequences. And for him, for Rahner, here the doctrine of original sin becomes relevant, because Rahner says that the fall is the first irreversible self-manipulation in human history. And this is a very profound thought. It means that freedom is real, but that freedom is never innocent. Human beings can transform themselves, but they can also deform themselves. Our freedom is marked, so to say, by ambiguity. We are capable of creativity and destruction, responsibility and self-loss through wrong forms of self-manipulation. And for that reason, Rano invites neither a naive acceptance or simple refusal of transhumanist ideas, but he calls for a discernment of the spirit. And this discernment must ask what kinds of self-transformation keep our humanity and what kinds damage it. What kinds expand our capacity for relationships, for truth, for love, for responsibility before God, and what kinds undermine them. So Rano also reminds us of something else. However much human life and dying may be transformed, life remains in a decisive sense under the law of death and what it is unavailable to us. Even in a transhumanist future, death would not simply disappear as an existential and theological reality. Christian hope does not rest on avoiding death by technology, but on passing through death in trust in God. Serrano says, even if we reach the point of technological immortality, this would still not answer the question how we should use our freedom in front of God, how we should relate ourselves towards God. So even an technologically immortal being would still face these questions, would still have to relate itself in a positive or negative way to God, and of course also to the world and to other human beings. So this leads me to the final part of my talk. I would like to conclude by returning to some ideas about the deep difference between Christian and transhumanist understandings of reality. For transhumanism, the overcoming of human deficiency becomes a task of technical production. Redemption, if one may use this word within this concept, is not received, is not a gift by God, but it is engineered. It is made possible through technology. And from a Christian perspective, of course, this issue is seen very differently. The fulfillment of the human being is not the product of autonomous technological self-redemption. It is a divine gift. It comes ultimately from God. This does not mean that human action is irrelevant. Christians are called to heal, to care, to create, and transform the world in a responsible way. But these activities do not turn human beings into their own saviors. A second decisive difference concerns embodiment. The doctrines of the incarnation and the resurrection of the body, for instance, show that embodiment is not a temporary defect that has to be left behind. Rather, the body is part of the good creation of God and therefore a part of what it is to be redeemed. From a Christian point of view, the deep problem with mind uploading is not simply that it is backward. It is that it breaks apart the unity of the human person. It treats embodiment as a secondary, optional, and disposable existence, while the Christian tradition sees the human person as an embodied unity called not to escape creaturelessness, but to be transformed within it. So transhumanism is one of the most powerful contemporary expressions of the human desire to overcome limitations. It gives new technological form to an old dream, and it speaks a deep and it speaks to a deep human longing for health, for power, for a long-lasting life, for freedom from fragility. But philosophical reflection shows that some of these promises, especially the promise of mind uploading, rests on very questionable assumptions. They presuppose that the self can be reduced to information, that consciousness can be separated from living embodiment, and that personal identity can survive mere functional replication. A richer anthropology suggests otherwise. human beings are embodied, relational, and historically situated persons whose existence cannot be captured adequately by the language of transferable data. So Christian thought adds a further dimension. It affirms the value of healing, of care, of responsible transformation. But it resists the idea that the human being may finally redeem itself through technological control. The human person remains creature, not creator of its own ultimate salvation. And yet, as Karl Rahner reminds us, the matter is not simple. Human beings are open beings, beings of freedom, capable of shaping themselves. This openness makes technological self-transformation possible, but it also makes responsibility, caution, and moral discernment indispensable. So perhaps the most important question is not whether technology will change the human being. It certainly will. The more important question is this: what kind of transformation truly spurs human flourishing? And from a Christian perspective, what kind of transformation helps human beings become more capable of truth, love, responsibility, and communion with God and the neighbor? That, I think, is the real question behind the dream of the perfect human being. Thank you very much for your attention. Okay. Sorry, I forgot to present you the last slides.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Gasser, for your insightful presentation. And let's give a round of virtual applause for Professor Gasser. Being created in the image of God cannot become the object of arbitrary human action. Such a powerful line to evaluate the use of technology, not to manipulate our deficiency regarding our body and consciousness. And also, Professor Gasser's presentation concludes the first session of our discussion. Now we are going to have a 15-minute break. Should you have any questions or discussions, you may keep that in the next 15 minutes until we begin session 2 for questions and answer. Or you can start to type your question in the chat box, and then the committee will choose the questions for the speakers. Okay, now we can take a 15-minute break, and we will see you later in 15 minutes.
Welcome to Universitas Sanata Dharma. Now we're in Campus 1 of Universitas Sanata Dharma, located in Jalan Avandi, Merican, Yogyakarta. Here in Campus 1, there are 3 faculties, which are Faculty of Teacher Training and Education, Faculty of Letters, and Faculty of Economics. Moving from Campus 1, now we're in Campus 2 of Universitas Sanata Dharma, specifically in Gedung Pasca Sarjana, which is still adjacent to Campus 1. In Gedung Pasca Sarjana, there are magister programs and doctoral programs. there are some faculties such as Faculty of Science and Technology, next is Faculty of Psychology, Faculty of Pharmacy, Faculty of Teacher Training and Science Education, It offers lots of study programs such as mechatronics engineering and electromedical engineering. Here we have Faculty of Theology, Here, there is Catholic Religious Education Study Program as a part of Faculty of Teacher Training and Education. That's all for the campus tour of Universitas Sanata Dharma. How is it? Interesting, right? As we have offered lots of programs to study here. Then, what are you waiting for? Come on, register yourself and be part of Universitas Sanata Dharma. Cerdas dan humanis.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening from Yogyakarta, Indonesia. Welcome back to the 4th International Conference on Theology, Religion, Culture, and Humanities entitled The Quest of Being Human in Our Times. In session 2, we are going to have a question and answer session. Beforehand, as you may be preparing for the questions, I have seen some questions written in the chat box. Let me summarize the presentation from our speakers. What are the quests of being human in our times? From Dr. Joko, one of the quests is to navigate ourselves in the hyperreal world, especially in understanding our neighbors, so that we can collaborate with others without suspicion. In Pope Francis' reflection, we are called to go out and make meaningful encounters with others. With Dr. Zamit, we learn how to draw a line that technology communicates meaning, not the other way. Switching roles could change the role of theology of creating space of meaning. And with Professor Gesser, with such powerful line to evaluate the use of technology not to manipulate our deficiency regarding our body and consciousness. All right, so let me check the chat box. So I would say that we will have some terms in this question and answer session. So for the questions, I will read some question, and then for the second term, I would give time for participants to ask directly to the speakers. And also, this is also the question from Mr. Vladimir, for if you have any questions, so you can ask during the second session. For the second term. Okay. So for the first question, this one will be for Dr. Joko. This is from Pofri, one of our students here. There are some words of gratitude and also a question. What does it mean to be a truly human being in a hyperreal world? And more fundamentally, does this situation challenge us to reconsider whether we are still dealing with the same human subject as traditionally understood? So that's one question for Dr. Joko Lolono. And the second question, this one for Professor Gasser. So Professor Gasser, this one is from Dominicus Sukristiano, one of our lecturer here. Some gratitude word also for your presentation. I have some questions regarding your ideas. Perhaps this is the most fundamental one. Mind uploading seems to be based on functionalism in philosophy of mind, that mental states, or mind, are identified as what they do as such function, and such functions do not depend on the body. Does it mean that your critics to mind uploading are also critics to functionalism? If it is true, then how would you identify your theory? Is it a dualist theory? How would you identify Christian view of human being? If it is dualism, how would you then react to criticism towards dualist theory in general? Moreover, it seems that dualism will be open to making human life exist eternal, which seems to be the main upshot of mind uploading. Vielen Dank. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Okay, and the last question for the first term, this one is for Dr. Zamit. Let me read the question. This one is directly sent to me from one of our participants. So for Dr. Zamit, this one is from Jalu Tirta. What is your advice on leveraging technology to ensure that social progress isn't merely about individual advancement? For example, how can we achieve social justice more quickly than before? Okay, so those are 3 questions for each speaker. I will give time for Dr. Joko Lolono to respond to the first question. Dr. Joko?
Thank you for the time, and thank you for the question. I would like to answer this question. What does it mean to be truly human in hyperreal world? The question maybe is this way: are we in control, or are algorithm in control? This issue affects how we perceive others as brother or sister, and how we relate ourselves to environment, and how we understand society as a whole. Are our perspectives shaped by internet, or do we still retain the freedom to form our judgment as human person? I followed the interview by Renal Kasali to our former lecturer in our faculty, Father Haryat Moko. His concern on the reflection on the war in America, and he said this way: do we interpret such conflict through the lens of Donald Trump, or are we able to embrace alternative perspective? Do we believe Donald Trump because of his position as the President of America, or do we have any other perspective, such as those expressed by Pope Leo XIV? As a quote in the spirit of the church social teaching, he said, enough of the idolatry of self and money, enough of the display of power, enough of war. True strength is shown in serving life. With evangelical simplicity, Pope John 23rd once wrote, benefit of peace will be felt everywhere, by individuals, by families, by nation, and by the whole human race. And echoing the incisive word of Pope Pius XII, he added, nothing is lost by peace, everything may be lost by war. In this way of reflection, then we have our control in understanding reality, understanding realities, reality among realities in the society, in the social life. Then we have reflection, human reflection. The question, does this thing challenge us to reconsider whether we are still dealing with the same understanding of human subject as in the past? I think, as already also mentioned by both other speakers, that we are, as human beings, still in control. We are the one who make meaning. We are the one who deal with the reality, not the internet, not the artificial intelligence, nor the algorithm. Are we in control, or are algorithm in control? Do algorithm control us, or are we control the information we got? That is the answer of this question, and I think that is the way we still have ourselves as autonomic human being in front of this artificial intelligence and also this internet algorithm-driven media. Thank you.
Dr. Joko Lolono, for your response. Now, I would like to give time to Dr. Zamit to respond to the questions that is given to you. Dr. Zamit, are you still here?
You are still
I'm here.
Mute.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Joko Lolono, for responding the questions from the participant. Now, I would like to give this time to Dr. Zamit to respond to the questions given to you. Do you still have the question with you?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So first of all, I would like to thank the participant. I don't know if this participant is a lecturer or a student, but thank you for asking. I was actually impressed by the big number of attendees. I do attend a lot of conferences, but having some 230, 250 participants, I think it is quite impressive. So that shows well on the university, that it encourages participation and involvement in the activities of university life. Now, with regards to the question, the question was more, listen, instead of having a technology which is simply individual-oriented, which benefits the person, the few, how can we still have a technology which safeguards the rights of the community, of the whole, of the majority, of all people. So more or less, if I remember correctly, that was the question. Now, obviously, I have no ready-made answer. That would be good. No, if we have answers to everything, those answers would solve all our problems. But the most important thing is discernment in the whole process and involvement. And I would like to share 2 levels of involvement, which can apply to theologians, they can apply to students, they can apply to normal people in our pastoral ministry. First of all, there is the private level, so the personal level. If I want a technology which is socially just, which takes care of people, first of all, on a personal level, I must live in a just way. So first of all, discernment leads me to reflect on my own heart. Take an interior look and see how I am acting in my own life. So, am I being just? Am I being a person for others? Am I using technology in such a way which respects people? Or am I using technology simply for my own benefit? So, by beginning from that level, it helps a lot. Secondly, there is also the communal level. That is, am I involved on a wider level? Do I voice out my opinion? Or simply what politicians say, what businesses say, I simply agree and I buy their products, which can be good. But here we are speaking on social justice, on the level of protecting and respecting the community. So, am I a person who stops injustices, who speaks in favor of people who are vulnerable, of those who are suffering most from unjust technologies? Let me share with you. Once I was watching Facebook. It could be that this video turned up also in Indonesia. I don't know. And the video struck me. It described a lecturer in class with students, and this lecturer, out of the blue, he simply told a student with a stern and strict voice, he told the student, "Get up and leave my class." The student didn't know what to say. Because, I mean, she wasn't doing anything wrong. She was simply taking out her books to follow class. But this lecturer repeated once again, "Please stand up and go out of my class." So the student had to get up and leave the lecture room. The rest of the students remained in silence. Obviously, the rest of class was shocked by this experience, and the lecturer started presenting his topic. Now, after some minutes, the lecturer told them, "Did you understand what actually occurred?" He told them that what occurred in that event was a situation of cooperating in social injustice. He told them, "You knew that I was acting unjustly with your colleague, but no one dared to speak. No one dared to contradict me and tell me what you are doing is not correct." But everyone remained in silence. So maybe this could be, it is a story which represents our societies. It could be a story which can help us reflect on what we do in church, what we do in our society, what we do at university. We could be totally in favor of having a just technology, but our actions as individuals and as a community can totally contradict what we are sharing, lecturing, and preaching. So that is discernment. On a personal and on a communal level, not only for the topic of technology, but for any other topic, to see what I am doing not to perpetuate injustices and what the whole community is doing as a whole in favor of just technologies, etc.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Zamit, for responding the questions from our participant. Unfortunately, Professor Gasser is still not with us. He asked for a longer break, so we are going to continue with the second term for this question and answer session. I would like to give this second term to those who want to ask directly. So if you want to ask directly to the speakers, please raise your hand. In the chat box, I have Mr. Vladimir. Do you want to ask questions for the speaker? Oh, I saw here Mike, Mr. Mike. Okay. Would you like to share your questions for the speaker? Please mention the speaker and also just limit the questions for one speaker.
Can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah.
Perfect. First and foremost, thank you so much for this conference and for the speakers that are extremely engaging. The presentations have been fantastic. But honestly, the presentation that I was looking forward to the most was the first one. And it connected well to my earlier research. The topic on post-truth narratives and symbolic binarity. That is extremely interesting. But my question isn't necessarily about the presentation itself, rather than the food for thought, because the presentation itself is a elegant unity, especially with the addition of Baudrillard. But I would like to offer a comparison between the Indonesian context and the ex-Yugoslavian context, first and foremost. In ex-Yugoslavia, and I come from Serbia, right? There was a huge war of misinformation in the 90s between the Bosnian Muslims, between the Orthodox Serbs and the Catholic Croatians. It resulted in sadly enough, right now we live in an era of post-truth and populism, I would add. And I have a paper published by Springer Nature recently, and I can send it if someone is interested, which deals with the mutual reinforcement of post-truth and populism. And the examples that the Professor Martinez gave are mostly based on populism in the elections. And he mentioned Trump earlier as well, and there is a term Trumpism in the investigation of post-truth as well. So my personal food for thought for future research probably would be the connection between the background reasons and the background grounds for the prosperity of post-truth, especially in addition with echo chambers and epistemic bubbles. So based on the Indonesian context, why is there such hardcore antagonism or agonism blooming between the Muslims and the Christians? And what is the multi-perspectivist solution that can be used to remedy the whole situation? Professor Martinez offered a Christian solution, and especially Christianity has a good addition of Imago Dei doctrine to solve the constant antagonizing factors linked to the post-truth narratives. But at the same time, the narratives themselves need to bloom somewhere, and the background itself, I believe, offers a lot of background reasons for those narratives to bloom, antagonistic narratives. So my question, the comment is, would you think it would be a fruitful discussion to open why those attitudes, beliefs, and values are shaped post-truth narrative as it is, and what could be done in a more multi-perspectivist solution, such as the mitigating factor coming from both Christians and Muslims? Thank you very much for the presentation. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Vladimir, for your question. Earlier, I saw Mr. Mike. If you want to share your questions for the speakers, he's still with us. Mr. Mike, please.
Am I audible?
Okay, yeah, we can hear you.
So greetings from Sengtam College, Thailand. Okay, having said that, my question is quite contextual, particularly directed to Father Dr. Joko. While listening to your presentation, it was all about kind of inter-religious, because the presentation is the problem of proselytization in the context of Indonesia, particularly between the Christians and the Muslims. So what I could able to for is about the tension in terms of inter-religious process of proselytization. I would like to see this from the perspective of Thailand, which would also more or less give a similarity in the context of Indonesia here, wherein Thailand, the majority belong to Buddhists, 95% belong to Buddhists, and here the statistics say 87% could be more or less. More than looking at two parties looking at, my question would be, while you did this research, have you come across a kind of a triangular tension? When I say triangular tension, it means like the whole process of a proselytation and tensions arise out of it would be from the way of so-called the age-old tension of sheep stealing, whether here in the context of Indonesia would be Muslim brothers not happy with the Christians and Christians not happy with the Muslims. Have we forgotten there is a triangular tension? It's not just a Christian, Catholic, non-Catholic. Thailand, it would be Catholic, non-Catholic, and the Buddhist. Where my research, most of research centered on the peripheries and content of northern part of Thailand. This ships, the tension arises from the non-Catholic brothers and the sisters. Further, while you did this research, what is your assumption of passive active proselytization and the tension arises? Is it only interreligious, or do you feel real revisitation should be done even ecumenic? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mike, for your questions. I think the participants would like to hear more from Dr. Joko. I will assume that these two questions mainly for Dr. Joko Lolono. Dr. Joko, if you want to respond to the questions. Okay.
Thank you very much for the response for my presentation. For the first one, from Vladimir. Thank you that your experience in Bosnia somewhere is related to our context in Indonesia, in which this post-truth era with the echo chamber and epistemic bubble influence the way people relate to each other. And as you mentioned, as I mentioned in the conclusion, I work with the idea of we need to navigate hyperreality, and you promote the other idea of multi-shape answer from Muslim and Catholic side. In the context of Indonesia, as I understand, acknowledge in Indonesian context, then I noticed that even from Christian side and the Muslim side, we work together. We work hand in hand to overcome this problem of suspicion of proselytization and others, because we could not picture or we could not think of Muslim in one one single picture, one single perspective, because Muslim Indonesia are divided into the one from the extremists into the one who have this kind of relation to the Christian people, and some of them or many of us still work in these dialogues and the way. As already I mentioned in my presentation, we have Banser. Banser is one of youth wing from Nahdlatul Ulama. If you look for in the internet, then Nahdlatul Ulama is the biggest Muslim community in Indonesia. In the time when we had we have terrorism in Indonesia in 1997, one of their leader, Abdur Rahman Wahid, who later on become one of Indonesian president, said to them, please keep the church safe to save Indonesia. In a dream that if there is something happen in the church, then people do not think that it is about that in Indonesia there is war between religion. They come to the church in Easter and also in a Christmas and big celebration of the Christian to save and to guard the church, and it helped us to still have correlation with them. So as you mentioned, I think in the context of really daily life, we have actually this relation. But in the context of imagination, for some extent, then there is an imagination of the suspicion and everything, especially in the context of those who do not have real life connection to the Muslim community from Catholic side and vice versa. So the context of the question from Mike, thank you. Triangular tension, chip stealing, and why it is about Christian and Muslim, not about the others. There is a, we call it as historical background in Indonesia. In my journal, I can inform you, I can also share you my journal. We found that in 1965, when in Indonesia there was coup by the communists at the time, and furthermore in the context in Indonesian country ban these communists, then there was slaughter for the communist people, and there is problem with and the country as all Indonesians should have religion, and in many cases they do not choose the Muslim community, but they choose the Christian. Since the time, there is like a suspicion that Christian do good but they work with this proselytization. I can say, because this is a long story of Christian and Muslim relation in Indonesia. I can read a part for you, I think.
Okay.
Therefore, if previously they considered in Indonesia Abangan group as threat, after large-scale conversion of 1965-1966, it was the Christian whom they considered as threat. The long historical background of conflict and tension between Islam and Christianity further strengthened the argument that the issue of Christianization is the real ongoing one. I can share you better, but this is really, in Indonesia, in many cases, the tension is not about another religion, but from Christian. Christian, in both the Christian, Catholic Christian, and also the other denomination. And yes, that is the way I found the data from my field research. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Joko, for your response to the participants' questions. I would ask Professor Gasser, are you still here with us? Because you have couples of questions for you. Professor Gasser? Okay. If not, then I would like to give next questions. We don't have much time anymore. I think I would say that 2 more questions. The first question is from Father Nico Lakabelek Teluma. This question is actually for 2 speakers, for Dr. Joko and Dr. Zamit, but I would say that this one mainly for Dr. Zamit first. Okay. So the question is, what does negotiating truth actually mean, and how to criticize it with the reflection of Pope Benedict XVI's idea of the dictatorship of relativism. Okay, Dr. Zamit, the time is yours.
Okay, so Father Nico, thank you very much for your question. Negotiating truth. Can we negotiate truth? I think if we take a look at doctrine, there are truths and truths. Truths which are more basic, which are fundamental, which lie at the core of our beliefs, and then there are other truths which still form part of the whole body of truths, but which occupy lesser importance. For example, you can easily compare, for example, the truth about God, the Trinity, that occupies the first place. We call it the hierarchy of truths. Then there are other truths which deal with the rest of things. So first of all, I would suggest knowing exactly what we believe in, who we are, before trying to negotiate or dialogue with different people. Secondly, when negotiating, I think the best way is to listen, to understand where the problem lies, and while knowing perfectly what my beliefs are in light of the truth, I would try to bridge gaps, to act as a bridge builder. No, it is the vocation, the role of the Pope to serve as a pontifex. I think it is also the vocation of every Christian, but not only, to bridge, while not negotiating truths which are fundamental, other realities, other things can be discussed in light of situations. The history of the Church, even recent history, has shown how different matters pertaining to doctrine can be adapted to different contexts while remaining faithful to the essence of our faith. This once again implies a lot of discernment. So what can we agree upon? What can be slightly changed in order to adapt for the circumstances? I think there you need a lot of discernment. So certain things, they are truths which we have to believe in because they lie at the core of our lives as human beings and as Christians. Then there are other things, as we have seen in recent pontificates and church magisterium, which can be dialogue discussed according to different situations. Is that relativism? Are we changing according to the needs of people? Are we simply diluting our faith, our beliefs? No. I think presenting a church which is totally rigid, detached from people, I mean, it is not good. On the other hand, we cannot present a church which is totally diluting its faith and beliefs because people want things differently. In Latin, they would say in medio stat virtus, that is, without going to extremes, walking with people, which was the way which the Church has always promoted, but which was specially promoted by Pope Francis, so accompanying these different situations, while keeping firm with important truths. I think that is always the safe way to journey. So not to fall into relativism, not being afraid of relativism, knowing one's truths well, what we believe in, yet dialoguing with concrete realities.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Zamit, for your response. I would like to ask once again, Professor Gasser, are you still here with us? Oh, I saw. Yeah, okay.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. So you have a couple of questions, and this will be conclude this session, this question and answer questions. So the first question is from Domenico Socristiono. If you can find the questions in the chat box, but I would like to read that out loud. Okay. So the questions will be regarding your ideas. Perhaps this is the most fundamental one. Mind uploading seems to be based on functionalism in philosophy of mind, that mental states are identified as what they do. As such, functions do not depend on the body. Does it mean that your critics to mind uploading are also critics to functionalism? If it is true, then how would you identify your theory? Is it a dualist theory? How would you identify Christian view of human being? If it is dualism, how would you then react to criticism towards dualist theories in general? Moreover, it seems that dualism will be open to making human life exist eternal, which seems to be the main upshot of mind uploading. Vielen Dank. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. Yeah, it is true that most transhumanists, they favor some version of functionalism. So their preferred theory of mind is functionalism, because they say at the end, consciousness is nothing else but a complex system of different functions, how to pass on information, how to react to a certain influx of information. And I would say that this does not capture what consciousness is about, because I think that consciousness is not just a matter of processing information, but it is intrinsically linked to the body, to the way how the body is structured, and how the body relates with this structure to the world. So my idea would be that sorry, I was just reading this chat. So my idea would be that we should see mind and body as a kind of continuum. Maybe you can also think of the Aristotelian understanding of the soul. So Aristotle would say the soul is a function of living beings, in the sense that the complex, or the more complex the soul gets, the more functions it has, the broader the variety of interactions with the world are. And consciousness is just one sign of a very complex soul, to use this Aristotelian concept. So Aristotle would say the rational soul is not completely different from the vegetative soul or the sensitive soul, but it's just a sign of more complexity. The rational soul can do more things than the sensitive soul, because it has also this capacity to reason, this capacity to understand things in a more profound way than a sensitive animal could do. And I think this Aristotelian understanding matches with modern accounts of embodied cognition, saying that the way how we cognize, the way how we rationalize, the way how we understand the world has always to do with our bodily existence, the way how our body is structured. So I would not promote dualism, at least not a traditional like Cartesian dualism, or the body and the soul are like completely different entities. Indeed, I would even say that the transhumanist understanding of the mind is favoring a specific version of dualism, because the transhumanist would say, well, of course, if I have this functional structure of the mind, I can just transfer it to different hardwares, as long as this isomorphic layer is provided. So from my perspective, I would say consciousness stays in a continuum with biological life and is one expression of a very complex form of a biological life from a mere philosophical perspective. Of course, from a theological perspective, you would also have to ask the question, does the mind have to be bound to the body necessarily? Or can we understand this concept of the resurrection of the body in a Christian understanding in a non-biological way? And here I would tend to interpret it non-biologically, in the sense that I would say, well, this talk about the resurrection of the body does not refer to our biological body, but it has to refer to some kind of bodily structure that has intimate relationship to our body in this world. How exactly this is going to work out, or how exactly we have to understand this concept, I would say that's just beyond our grasp. That's also part of the mystery of faith. But I would still think that there has to be some relationship between our body now, or our bodily structures now, and then this talk about the resurrected body. Okay, I'm just going through the meeting chat.
Okay. So would you like to answer one more question?
Yeah, I'm just reading. Okay. The more it is used and the longer it is used, the better artificial intelligence become a human question. The machine can make mistakes. However, when users see that the machine answers a line of double check. Okay. Well, that's a more general question about whether people tend to use more and more like LLMs or other versions of artificial intelligence, and whether we should double check or whether we shouldn't double check. Well, I think this question has not, or I think it has one direct relation to my talk, to this concept of mind uploading, because if mind uploading really works, then we would, to a certain extent, just exist in this, digital environment. And it's very likely that this digital environment is also linked then to some other systems of artificial intelligence. So the question would be whether our mind gets also extended by being connected with other systems of artificial intelligence. And some transhumanists, they also have this idea. They say, well, the human mind is limited, and we tend to expand our mind by using, for instance, I don't know, the mobile phone, right? That's also, if I do some calculations on my mobile phone, then I don't have to do it, so to speak, in my head. I'm just externalizing certain cognitive processes which I would otherwise have to do with my head. And this is one version of an extended form of the human mind. I use external tools for increasing my cognitive capacities. And yeah, and this of course could go on. And in a purely digital environment, the idea could be that the human consciousness should just connect with these artificial models. And then, of course, the question is, okay, if these artificial models tend to get wrong, then to overemphasize certain things, then to display wrong informations, then this, of course, has a direct impact on our consciousness and on the way how we reason.
Okay. Okay, Professor Gasser.
Just answer. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Professor Gasser, for your response. I have to humbly ask for everyone for your apology that we cannot accommodate any more questions. The time runs faster than I thought, and I think it has passed lunchtime for Dr. Zemet and Professor Gasser. It has also passed our dinner time here in Southeast Asia. And I would like to give this time for each speaker. Maybe if you want to give kind of like a closing statement from this conference. So I would like to give the first chance for Dr. Joko, followed by Dr. Zamit, and also for Professor Gasser for the closing remarks for your presentation. Dr. Joko, the time is yours.
Thank you very much for the time. Sorry. I will answer the question of Father Ranis as my conclusion remarks. The tension between dictatorship of relativism. The tension can be reconciled by distinguishing between truth itself and our human access. In the context of interreligious dialogue, as Pope Benedict XVI, truth is not something we negotiate or construct. It is objective, given, and to be received. This protects faith and reason from falling into relativism. But at the same time, we have the affirmation of Nostra Aetate, that the Church rejects nothing that is true and holy in other religion. This expression an inclusiveness, openness. Others may genuinely participate in the truth, even it is not the fullness, if not in its fullness. Therefore, dialogue is not about negotiating truth, but about seeking it together in a way that we are working hand in hand, looking for truth. Truth remains firm and objective, yet our understanding of it is always partial and can grow through, and we can working hand in hand to seek the truth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Joko, for your closing remark. Dr. Zamit?
Concluding with a remembrance of Pope Francis, who died a year ago, I would like to finish off with the phrase which he used to say and is written down, that grace supposes nature, grace supposes culture. So all that we have forms part of this cultural journey which we have as human beings, and within this cultural journey there is the presence of God, who incarnates himself. He chooses to assume humanity, to assume culture, in order to affirm it and transform it. So maybe I think that should be the way how we should delve into the different realities we have around us, including technology, etc. Not to be afraid, rather assume everything which is cultural in order to transform it with the grace of God. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zamet. For the last closing remarks from Professor Gasser.
Yeah, thank you very much for also giving me the opportunity and possibility to talk to you. I think when we discuss transhumanism or when we study transhumanist ideas, then it becomes clear that behind or at the very bottom of transhumanism, there's a deep anthropological longing for a better world, for overcoming certain human limitations that create also negative effects. So we should, from a Christian perspective, also take this positively into consideration, that transhumanism just points towards limitation, points towards state of affairs in the world that should be improved. On the other hand, from a Christian perspective, we should always remind ourselves that ultimate improvement is not something that can be achieved by human beings. That although we might have intentions, also good intentions can go in the wrong direction. And of course, what I completely cannot discuss due to the break of time is the question: who is formulating the proper aims for these transhumanist programs? Who is determining why enhancing our cognitive capacities is a good thing? We did not talk about ideological aspects that are also coming along with transhumanism. I think that from a Christian perspective can be a very good contrast for it. It can give us a sense of to look critically at this ideology or the ideological features of the transhumanist movement. And that is also the main point of Paul Rahner, that he says at the end, as Christians, we should always remind ourselves that we are on the journey towards God, but this journey is not completely in our hands. It cannot be completely determined by our thoughts, by our actions, and therefore this humbleness towards God, this respect for human life and other forms of life is very important for not drawing the wrong conclusion that now with our technological means, all our scientific means, we can finally take our destiny in our own hands.
Thank you, Professor Gasser, for your closing statement. And as a sign of gratitude, I will invite everyone to turn on your cameras so that, especially for Dr. Zamet and Professor Gasser, could see the diversity of our faces. And I would say a huge thank you for Dr. Joko, Dr. Zamet, and also Professor Gasser for giving your time to share your wisdom with us. And let's give a round of virtual applause for our keynote speakers. Thank you so much for having the time with us. And as I said in the beginning, I hope that our conference will make an impactful discussion regarding human beings in our theological conversation. I will say the keywords that could summarize our conference today, quoting Dr. Joko's presentation, would be to be able to navigate. In this era of hyperreality, post-truth, and I think Professor Gasser mentioned about the teenage era of our evolution, we are called to navigate ourselves. So in our times, in this present times, we are called to navigate. We don't have any much choice. We are part of this world. And I think this is what Martin Heidegger says about being the authentic version of ourselves. We cannot avoid the world because we are living within. And however, we can choose how to live our lives with dignity, responsibility, and also creativity as Christians. And also my sincere apologies for any technical issues and any discomforts that occurred during the conference. It is my pleasure to be your moderator for this conference, and I would like to hand over the conference to my brother Wilbert as our Master of Ceremony.
Thank you, Brother Tebe. Time indeed passes swiftly, and we have now reached the conclusion of our discussion. I trust that all our ideas and reflections shared here have been both enriching and applicable to our quest of being human. Thank you once again for all our attention and participation. Now, let us give a virtual applause once again for all of us today. And before we officially adjourn and leave the room, allow me to share several important announcements concerning the proceedings of this seminar tomorrow. First, to receive your e-certificate, please find the link provided in the Zoom chat box. E-certificates are awarded to authors, presenters, and also to participants. To get a certificate, you must fill in the Google form. Please kindly click the link and follow the instructions to fill the necessary details. Additionally, this event booklet is also available in chat for your reference. And for the authors, please do find in the booklet the guidelines for completing your full papers, which should be submitted before April 30th, 2026 for further review and editing. And I would like to also remind you that for the next day, our conference will begin tomorrow, April 22nd, 2026 at 4 p.m. Jakarta time. And on the second day, tomorrow, we will have 12 parallel breakout rooms for presentations for authors. These rooms will be divided based on the themes of the presentations. We kindly ask our speakers to join their respective rooms 15 minutes earlier for technical preparation. Please check the program schedule in the booklet to find your assigned breakout rooms. If you find any issues, please feel free to reach out to our support team in the chat. Again, on behalf of the committee, I would like to extend our gratitude for all your generous contribution to our seminar today, especially for our keynote speakers today. We also apologize if there are any technical difficulties along the way or other shortcomings today. Looking forward to seeing you again on the next virtual seminar. Thank you and good night. God bless us all. Let us conclude this seminar today with the sign of the cross in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you all.